Have you ever woken up from a dream and wished it never ended? Or maybe you woke up screaming and crying because you just dreamt of your worst nightmare. All different types of dreams occur in most people just about every night. But does anyone really know why we dream or what causes them? The study of dreams began all the way back in the 3rd millennium BCE. Mesopotamian kings would record and interpret their dreams on wax tablets. About 1,000 years later, the ancient Egyptians decided to write a dream book that listed over 100 common dreams and what they believed they meant. Since then, scientists have continued studies and research to understand why we dream. However, even with continuous research and technological advancements, scientists still don't know the exact science behind dreams. But they have developed many promising theories and made connections between dreams and a person's health, which is what I'm going to talk about today. First, the basics. Dreams are simply just hallucinations while we are sleeping. Studies have proven that dreams are the strongest during the rapid eye movement stage, or REM sleep. Scientists differ on what the purpose of dreaming truly is. Some believe dreams relate to flight or flight training. Some find that dreams function as our creative muse, and others believe that dreams may serve as memory aids. Most likely, these are all true to some degree, but a fourth function of dreams is the one that resonates most with me, the one I will focus on today. Dreams are involved with our emotional regulation. In other words, inside our heads, each of us has our own little biological therapist, sorting out our emotions when we close our eyes. Dreams may be a way that our brains confront emotional trauma while we are sleeping. We like to think of ourselves as rational, logical beings, but anyone who has ever been in a calculus class knows that our emotions play a huge role in our everyday lives. Our sleeping brains may make emotional connections that our conscious selves would ignore or wouldn't make. I had a dream recently after I found out that my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer. It was a dream that wasn't necessarily relevant to his condition, but it did involve him passing away. This had been a deep thought that I had tried to avoid while I was awake, but I faced the possibility of this happening during my dream, and when I woke up, I accepted the fact that it will happen eventually. And I allowed myself to let out my emotions instead of keeping them buried down. Even though the idea that dreams help us sort through our emotions is still considered a theory, it sure is an accurate explanation of what I experience. When we understand that our dreams are working as our own personal therapists, it is easy to understand why missing out on sleep can affect both our mental and physical health. Skipping a bunch of help sessions with a therapist would no doubt make our next session quite the mess when we finally do get there. And the same seems to be true for dreams. When our bodies become sleep deprived and avoid getting healthy REM time to sort through our emotions, our brains, thoughts, and emotions can become a huge mess once we finally fall into REM sleep. More clinically speaking, due to the lack of sleep, our brains become more active during REM, and our dreams become far more vivid and often frightening. This causes us to become restless when we are sleeping. Scientists are certain that not getting enough sleep can put us at risk for specific diseases that can weaken our immune system. Similarly, skipping out on our nightly therapy is bad enough when we are feeling well, but for those of us living with mental illnesses such as anxiety or depression, the skip sessions make things even worse. It doesn't take much imagination to realize that if dreams process our emotions and we are victimized by a situation that affects our emotional well-being, our dreams will be affected. Those who struggle with anxiety and depression seem to be more susceptible to dreams that are intense and could be more apt to having disturbing nightmares. In particular, people with anxiety are trying to process emotions under a lot of stress, so the dreams are often full of anxiety. People who struggle with depression may be victimized by unrelenting negative emotions and may find that at night, their brains process these negative emotions into intense nightmares. To make matters worse, not only does the disorder itself seem to have a negative effect on dreams, but the medications used to help manage the disorder may also lead to nightmares or at least far more vivid dreams. Medications such as antidepressants affect neurotransmitters including serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Because these specific neurotransmitters are linked to how we dream, it makes sense that these medications alter our dreams. One can hope that this is a therapeutic in and of itself. If dreams do indeed function as our own little therapy sessions, perhaps these more intense sessions can speed our healing. Of course, our analogy of dreams being built in as therapists only takes us so far. There are serious neurological disorders closely related to our sleep. Most likely, all of us have heard of sleep apnea, which is a condition where people's physiology causes them to snore in a way that literally disrupts their breathing. And many people also deal with insomnia. A lesser known but equally dangerous condition is REM Behavior Disorder, or RBD. This is a condition where normal paralysis that typically occurs during REM sleep doesn't take place. Because the body doesn't slip deeply into REM sleep, it is capable of moving or acting out physically. People with RBD may even become physically violent while they are sleeping, such as thrashing, kicking, or punching. This isn't your typical movement while you're sleeping either. Some of us may twitch or move during our sleep, but people with RBD violently react, giving the impression that whatever is going on inside their head isn't a peaceful dream. Beyond disrupting sleep, RBD is a strong indicator for certain forms of dementia and Parkinson's disease. It had been known that the brainstem is involved in controlling dreams during REM sleep, but in a study by Dr. John Peever at the University of Toronto, specific cells were discovered to be primarily responsible for the dream state. These are now called the REM active neurons. Dr. Peever and his colleagues learned that about 80% of people who suffer from RBD eventually develop degenerative neurological diseases such as Parkinson's disease or dementia, typically within 15 years. Of course, this is just the first study and much more research is needed. But wouldn't it be nice if our inner therapists could help us? Doctors would be able to provide their patients with preventative actions that can help slow the effects of, or perhaps eventually entirely halt the process of the devastating neurological diseases. Families and friends could be given much more time to spend with their loved ones and have time to prepare themselves for what's to come. Dreams are a very complex part of our existence that are only beginning to be understood. Many of us don't realize that we sit through a free therapy session every night we dream. Without our dreams revealing our deepest thoughts and sorting through our strongest emotions, we may never be able to truly face them. So next time you have a dream, think about how it is trying to benefit you, regardless of how unrealistic it may be.